Good evening, everybody. Ron Onesti here from Rock and Roll Heaven, the Arcada Theater in St. Charles, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Welcoming you to Artist on Lockdown. We're hanging and banging with some of the legendary rock and rollers of our time. My partners in crime with this show, they're my brothers. So excited to have them with me tonight. This is episode, I believe, 22 of Artist on Lockdown, hanging and banging. But along with them tonight, this is a very, very special episode of Artists on Lockdown, hanging and banging, as we remember the memory of Eddie Van Halen with some of his closest friends and some of our closest friends. So let me bring to the screen right now from Last in Line, from Black Sabbath, from Dio, Vinny Appice. How you doing, my brother?
Hello.
What are you giving up? You
got Hello, everybody. I give up.
Hello.
Hey,
hello.
Hey, Ron.
No. Don't start on me. We got a big show. It's you're going to pick. I can tell by the look on your face.
It looks like you pasted it onto another shirt.
Well, you quit picking on me.
Underneath it.
Look, no, this is what counts, okay? Quit picking on me, will you please? You know what? I'm going to call your brother on you. Your big brother, my big brother, from Vanilla Fudge, Jeff Beck, Rod Stewart, Carmine Appice. There he is. He's got your sister's shirt.
There it is.
There it is. It's too hot to wear, so I'm not wearing it.
Too hot. We're freaking dying up here in Chicago.
Yeah,
hey, man.
Yeah.
Great to see you guys. Very special show tonight. We've got some of rock and roll icons on the show tonight. And I can tell you this is going to be something special, mainly because it's bittersweet, of course. It's a great show featuring great people, but it's the memory of our buddy Eddie Van Halen. So thanks
before we get going, let's say a quick rest in peace for Spencer Davis, huh?
Spencer Davis. How about Tony Lewis from the outfield? I mean, it's just a crazy.
Oh, I didn't know he died too.
He died a couple days. They died the same day.
Oh man,
the same day.
Terrible.
It's terrible, man.
It's terrible.
And you know, it's weird because it's very strange. We had them both booked at the Arcada. I mean, we moved them. Spencer Davis was coming. Tony Lewis, we had him. It's just such a tragedy. So
it's terrible. Yeah.
Well, let's bring a couple of our buddies on. A couple of guys have been on before. One guy hasn't been on before, so I'm very excited to see him as well. Let's bring on Ron Thal, of course, Bumblefoot, Guns N' Roses, Sons of Apollo, and so many other things. What's up, brother?
How's it going? Hello.
Hey.
Do you have the guitar surgically implanted? I can't imagine, because I wouldn't recognize you. I would not recognize you with the guitar. You're always with the guitar.
No. Who is that guy?
I don't know him. How you doing, man?
Good.
God, I love it. We got a man, that was
awesome. Yes.
We got another friend that's going to join us tonight. He's on the air right now. Guitar player. I mean, Deep Purple. How much better can that get? But what a great guy he is, and he's played at the Arcada several times. A good friend of ours. I know a tremendous good friend of yours. Let's welcome to the microphone, to the screen, Steve Morse.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, brother.
Oh, this is Guitar Wars. Guitar Wars. Yeah,
so
man. Hey, hold on.
The drums killed me.
Let's do how about Guitar Wars versus Drum Wars? What a cool night that would be.
There you go.
I'm booking it.
Yeah, man.
We're good to see you guys.
You book it, we'll do it.
Hey, man, I'll do it.
Travers just texted me, said he'll be right here.
Beautiful. Pat will be on.
And Bruce Kulick's going to be a little late, and we got Nugent later.
Absolutely. So we got a lot going on. Let's talk to our two brothers here, Steve and Ron Bumblefoot here.
Yeah.
I mean, we touched on it, And we actually, just before you guys came on, we did do a quick little rest in peace as well to Tony Lewis of the outfield and Spencer Davis, who died this week on the same day. It's just crazy, man, because it's not just band members these are legends and icons that are taken with them, just traditions. And it's just so sad. It really is, man. How you guys feeling?
And you really feel your mortality when a lot of your peers, on a regular basis, like every month, it's just like, so who was it this time,
Yeah.
That's it.
But Eddie's time really hadn't, he had a lot more musically, in him, and it's such a shame that he got taken so early.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, you see these testimonials, you see these people giving, tributes to Eddie all over social media, of course. And you know what? It's always the same thing. He, the most amazing guitar player in the world, his own style. He influenced me, influenced my band, and also one of the sweetest guys you'll ever meet. We're going to miss him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Steve, you've got, actually, I think we've got Pat backstage here.
Bring him on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, needs no introduction, Mr. Pat Travers.
Hey,
man.
Hey.
Hey, Steve. How you doing,
Man.
brother?
All right.
Bumble.
Wow. Three
How
guitar
cool is
players.
this?
I
mean, this is
know.
crazy.
I didn't realize you guys were going to have your guitars with you. I almost said,
We'll
hey,
wait.
hand me mine, but no.
Go get it.
No, it's okay. I remember, I think it was the Duck Dunn, the bass player, the great Duck Dunn, and he once said, what do you got when you got three guitar players on stage up to their necks in shit? Not enough shit.
Well, you've got a festival gig, is what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so funny. And I'm thinking that could apply to drummers as well. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So we got three, not to blow smoke up your skirts, guys, but three legendary guitar players on this call as well. And, I got to ask you, and I know what part of the obvious answer is, but, when a guy like Eddie Van Halen, you guys are all brothers in rock. You guys are all brothers in guitar playing. But when you looked at Eddie Van Halen, I'm going to start with you, Pat Travers. When you watched Eddie, when you watched him perform, what went through your mind when you would see him?
I think that for me, the big problem with Ed was that he discovered these cool effects, the tapping and the dive bombs and the pick squeals. They were really only a small portion of what he really did. They were just effects, in a 4-minute song. Mm-hmm. And if you look back at his musicality and his rhythm playing, he was just like he was. The first time you heard "You Really Got Me," it's just all rhythm, And so I was always, and I loved it when he got into keyboards. I thought that was great. And especially when in the studio when he could do both parts with the guitar, and he was a lot more sparing in the amount of notes that he played than I think a lot of people realize. He didn't full blast pedal to the metal all the time, and I think people miss that.
A lot of his solos were very melodic.
Exactly.
Rememberable.
Exactly. Yeah. He was a very musical guy, definitely. Yeah. And he had great rhythm. I mean, and I don't think I ever saw anybody enjoy playing as much as he did.
Yeah, right.
I was cruising YouTube and I found a live solo from 1983. And he played, I don't know, maybe 7 minutes. And it was fantastic. You couldn't take your eyes off him. He was just having a ball, and he didn't make one damn mistake, ever. It was like, how do you do that? He was awesome and a super nice guy. Ron, you said that everybody says the same thing, that he was a sweetheart, and he really was. Yeah.
And you would hear some of the stuff. I mean, David, Lee Roth said a couple things, and which we don't want to touch on too much, because earlier it was like he was trying to blame some of the stuff that he was involved with, and it got debunked later, and that's why I couldn't stand hearing some of the stuff that he was saying, because Eddie was really a number one guy that you hear that from everybody. Steve, how did you think? I'm sure Eddie Van Halen influenced you in some way, shape, or form. Steve?
Yeah, although I ended up hearing him really, after my style was pretty much formed and cemented, because I was already doing the Dregs music and heavily involved in that when I did hear him. And I think, like Pat said, the things that influenced me probably the most were his music ideas that came out in rhythm, like doing the rhythm. I don't have a whammy. The little accents he would put in his rhythm stuff, and Randy Rhoads, later did a lot of the same kind of things, and it had auditory interest to the parts, but he always knew how to voice the chords to give fatness where it needed to be, and he would break down to 2 notes when it needed it. You don't always have to be playing big fat bar chords or power chords, and like I said, just and getting to play with him, I discovered the same thing, is that he's like Steve Lukather to me, just very inventive on the spot, and melodic, but knows what, looking for an opportunity to put a part when he was jamming on stuff that he wasn't familiar with.
That's a really good comparison or analogy, bringing Lukather in with that, because they do had very similar styles to a degree. Hey, Bumblefoot, you're one of the most innovative guys that I've ever met. That's for sure, especially on the guitar. You are. I mean, look, you got a double neck sitting right there. I mean, but
and a fretless neck too.
I know, and obviously Eddie was extremely innovative. Do you see some of the comparisons or on the way that on his way of innovations, did they touch you? You see some kind of a comparison to yourself with that?
Completely, 100%. I always say there's like this line: there's guitar before Eddie Van Halen, and then there's guitar after Eddie Van Halen. And he just changed it for, like, whoever heard him, if they were in developmental years, he had some profound effect on them. And for me, I was like this Angus Young kind of guitar player when I was a kid. And then I remember I was 12 years old, and I went to band practice, and we were jamming, and this kid says, "Hey, do you know how to tap?" And I'm like, and he shows me, and I remember he showed me and I was doing it backwards. I was going, he's like, "No, the other way." And he played me for the first time. The first thing I ever heard was Meat Street. And I didn't know a guitar could make a sound like that. I had never heard, my ears had never heard anything like that. It would be as if your eyes saw a new color for the first time. It was just mind-blowing. It just... And I was just like, more, show me more. And then he showed me Eruption. And,
oh my God.
Yeah, and I was hooked. So I got a cassette copy from Eruption, and I just sat there just listening to like 3 notes at a time, and just getting it down, 3 notes, and just learning it. And then once I learned it, I opened up the cassette and I flipped the reels and put it back so that everything on the tape is backwards. And then I learned it backwards.
You did.
So it's like I was that Eddie Van Halen that I wanted to learn eruption forwards and backwards.
Like a Beatles album.
You would
Wow.
do that. You would do that.
That's innovative. That's innovative.
But from there, I started really digging into all the Guitar World interviews that he was doing. And I started dipping my pickups in wax and started doing this and that and really experimenting and trying to figure it all out. But most of all, the most inspiring thing was, you know, he made me realize, a lot of people realize, that guitar is not just a utility for the song. It's a very expressive, individual, identifiable in its own way kind of thing. And I started getting into that, saying, you know, who am I? Who am I when I pick up this guitar? And what do I have? Let me dig as deep as I can to find whatever makes me me. And, you know, there's just one of everybody in the world. And anyone who picks up a guitar is going to have their own thing. But you want to dig deep and find that stuff. And that's what I really started doing because, you know, that inspiration that he gave.
You know,
that's how I got into like the whole thimble thing. I was like, how much more can you do with a string? I mean, he, you know, was the master of the harmonics and not just hitting them, but doing them on a closed note. All that kind of stuff. And Steve Morse, of course, the same thing. You know, all that, the chimes. But yeah, oh yeah. So then it made me want to start really exploring what happens when you divide a string. And I started getting into the whole science behind it all, how the frequency is like a reciprocal of whatever fraction you cut with that string. You know, 1/3 the length of string is going to be 3 times the frequency, 110, 330. And what that means sound-wise. And started getting into all of that stuff. And then when I was maybe 18, 19 years old, I started using this thing, a thimble on my finger, where I can extend the neck and get to the notes once you be on the fretboard.
Unbelievable.
So I get all the R2D2 higher stuff. And what you realize with the pickups is that they pick up just in this direction. And by the way, this is why you have to keep me muted. Because I won't stop. And you know, the pickup picks up in this direction, which means anything you do behind the pickup, what you are doing is you're just shortening the length of string. So that means that you could completely de-intonate your guitar.
all right. This is enough. Hey,
All right.
knock it off. This is crazy. I mean, really, dude,
You know what?
you are missing the frickin'
Vinny.
point.
Hey, Vinny. Let me ask you a question. I got to ask Vinny a question real quick. Vinny, as a drummer, of course, I don't know, and I want to ask the question. I don't know specifically who has actually worked on stage with Eddie, but Vinny, you as a drummer and a guy, again, as innovative as Eddie Van Halen, how difficult is it to play behind someone like that?
Well, you know, Carmine and I are pretty busy players, so Eddie's pretty busy with his rhythms, which are not blocks of 4/4.
Right.
Time he had accents all over the place. So I would love to have jammed with him and just I would lay back and listen to where he's going and try to catch some of those accents. But that's what I love. Like even in Jump, it's a top hit,
It is.
top 40 hit. But yet they went into that weird timing part. When I first heard it, I went, "Wow, what the hell was that?" You know.
And that's what I'm saying. You guys got your own styles, you know, and that would be, that's why I'm thinking it might be so difficult to, to adapt to his on stage.
I bet Ed was easy to play with. I bet he was one of for a drummer, I bet Ed was probably one of the easiest guys for you guys to play with.
Yeah.
Well, his brother was a drummer, so
Yeah,
you know.
and he was a drummer.
He was a drummer.
Yeah, he was a drummer. Yeah, he was
It's
a
like
drummer.
you
Right?
and me. It's like you and me, Carmine. Have we
Yeah.
ever had any difficulty playing? No. And I bet playing with Ed.
I've been meaning to tell you about that, Pat.
Yeah, that's not what he
was
told
an
me.
assumption I had.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, I think everybody right here is like overthinking Eddie Van Halen. He just was really good at what he did. And he practiced and he worked out these things, you know, he took the time. But fundamentally, he had a great rhythm style, aggressive bluesy vibrato. And then he, you know, the lockdown whammy bar just happened to come out when he was doing his thing. And that was a whole other thing. You know, I mean, Hendrix was doing that stuff 10 years earlier. Unfortunately, his guitar came back all out of tune when he did it. But once they fixed that, that's, you know, Eddie was able to adapt that just crazy dive bomb thing along with harmonics. That harmonics are lovely. They weren't invented in 1978. They've been around for a long time. And, you know, he just had this combination of really, and he was my age. So the guys he listened to were like Clapton and Beck and Page, and you know, so he had this whole library of incredible guitar players to draw upon, and then he took a few things that, you know, became his style. But I think the guitar playing was great, but I think the music and the aggressive nature of his playing was just wonderful. Just a production note, on the first two albums, the guitar is just on the left speaker. It's not on both speakers. It's the most amazing thing. If you go and listen to it and turn the stereo all the way to the right, there's just a little echo of the guitar. It's all on one speaker. Ted Templeman did that. Yeah.
Thank you, Pat. You know, we do have a couple other guys who are going to join. This will be quite the circle of trust that we have here tonight. Quite the conversation. Another good friend of ours, been on our show before. You know him from his days with Kiss. He's with Grand Funk Railroad right now. Let's bring our buddy Bruce Kulick out to the mic. Bruce, good to see you, buddy.
Hey, how's it
Bruce.
going there?
Hey,
Thank
Bruce.
you.
Hey, Bruce.
Welcome back, Bruce.
Yeah, I
Good to see
actually
you, brother.
got to hear a little bit. You guys are doing very well, and everybody, you know, what can I say? What an influence he was for me, and I have to admit, some of the special stuff that I had to do for Kiss. If Eddie didn't exist, and I didn't kind of like, I barely touched the surface of what he can do, but whatever I robbed and made my own made me more important to my fans, and I always felt very fortunate that he came along and did something so unique for rock and roll. I look at him as like he was kind of like the muscle car that came out of nowhere, you know.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
And straight out of California. I mean, forget even just the vibe. I mean, come on, the energy and performing. You know, he flying through the air and jumping around like that, but to play so well. And really, if I just had a moment to talk about his guitar playing, first of all, brilliant writer. The songs with Van Halen was fantastic, but it's just, you know, I always could hear something about his vibrato and the emotion and the melody that he would put into lead guitar playing that I could totally relate to, and that's what moves me. There were other great players from that era. I remember a lot of people would talk about Randy Rhoads, but you can tell when Randy's playing, the influence was very classical, and then he triple track or whatever. And that really turned everybody on quite a bit. But I just knew that Eddie listened to Eric Clapton. And I'm sure, Pat, you know that.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
you do
absolutely.
too, Bumblefoot. You know what I mean? There was something about his vibrato and phrasing that he just took at another level, you know. And then, of course, I'm just talking about without the, you know, some of the Floyd type tricks that obviously you can't do just on a Les Paul, okay? He totally turned the guitars upside down. And ironically, I was getting into the Floyd Rose and a bolt-on simple guitar with a one pickup. I didn't have the guts to just build it myself or put paint all over it and stripe it and do all the crazy things that he did. But it really worked, and it kind of really blew up the whole music business too.
Yeah.
So playing, the tools of the trade were changed, was a game changer. But it always came down to one thing that I know everybody here and everybody watching should know. It was truly still all about his talent. The innovative things were great, and they were only more amazing to be attached to his legacy. And he changed the landscape of guitar playing with not only his technique and ability, speed and vibrato and melodic content, but then there was all the parts and how he just made things his own. And Pat, you were talking about how he was recorded on that first record, and that does make a difference. Yeah. But I grew up, Eric Clapton was God, okay? Right. Cream. You could hear Eric on one side, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Beatle records was sometimes like that, as you guys know.
That's the way it was in the old days. Yep. Separated. It was real stereo.
Yeah.
Yep.
True stereo.
I always loved that Gene was so involved in seeing the vision of, whoa, these guys, right? And then look what happened. He didn't
exploded.
Wind up working with them, but he knew there was lightning in the bottle there, and it sure was. So and just to wrap it up with so he influenced me. First, he scared the hell out of me. Okay, when I heard that play,
everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad somebody else said it, because I was like, oh no. I know I'm good at something, but he's doing twice as much as me, and twice as fast and twice as better, or whatever. I was freaked out. And then, all right, I get the call to fill in actually for in Kiss for Mark St. John, who was like one of these fusion guys who could do a lot of that crazy stuff. Because when Kiss couldn't deal with Vinny Vincent and they ended that, Vinny had a foot in both sides, and you guys know a bit about his playing too. But the point is, Ace was Ace. You know what I mean? That's based on Jimmy Page and guitarists like that, which is much more what I got my vocabulary from. But now guitar playing's changing, and there's the Floyd Rose, and there's people like Eddie out there. But the guy before me was playing a lot of tricks. I had to incorporate that, and I made it my own. And then, of course, I wound up being asked to stay. And there was, I would say, a good half of my 12 years in the band, there was always some songs on a record where I didn't need to think Eddie. There wouldn't have been a Crazy Night solo on that single that was so big. There wasn't there's so many things I was in. Some of the fastest songs clearly were totally Van Halen influenced, And I used to, when I was given that solo, finally on the second tour, not Animalize, Asylum tour, which is now like celebrating its 35th anniversary, which is crazy, 1980, 85, yeah, end of 85. It was the tour. The album came out just a little while ago, 35 years ago. It's nuts. But Gene says, it's time for you to do a solo. This is what I think you should do. You go there, you run to that side of the stage. Run to that side of the stage.
How many times have I heard that?
Yeah, he staged it, right? And then go to the middle and do something insane. So I got on my knee and did my best, like this, like hammer on. There's many pictures of that where I'm down there doing, I call it Eddie Light, okay? You know what I mean? Because he just really knew how to do it. But it was the same techniques. And I know the guitar players in the room know exactly what I'm talking about. And I made it my own. And then I offered a guitar to the gods above my head. And big finale, that's the end. Bruce Kulick, lead guitar! Comes out, And
that was Paul, right? And that was Paul.
Yeah, that would be Paul coming out doing that, right.
Good imitation.
I'm telling you, without Gene's direction and what I was able to assimilate from Eddie in my own way, later on, I remember for the next tour, I actually started to incorporate weird things I found at Hendrix things, because he was a big hero of mine. The way he would improvise during big solos back in, 68, 69. And the fans wouldn't have known that, but I'm just saying. But without Eddie, I wouldn't have had that signature showpiece solo. I wouldn't have shined on Asylum, because that was my first official record, doing some speedy things that kill me now. People say, play King of the Mountain. And I'm like, oh, God. They have no idea how hard it is 35 years later. To play that.
I know.
I got it.
Oh,
yeah,
right. And I agree with Pat that I would think a player as talented and as musical and as brilliant as Eddie Van Halen it doesn't matter what kind of drummer, as long as that drummer is as good as these two gentlemen here.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna click, man. It's not about a challenge, okay, or like it would be a problem at all.
No.
Well, speaking of clicking, we have another friend, another brother in rock and roll, another legend icon to be on this call. Gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Ted Nugent.
Hey. How you guys doing? Huge, big, loud feedback, super twang, noise, celebration, orgy to everybody. What the fuck?
There he is.
Hey.
There he
I
is.
just got out of a swamp, so I think I may have a more cleansed soul than the rest of you. So I'm going to get right down to the ultimate dirty nitty gritty. Yeah, the guitar was truly out of body. He really went where Chuck Berry and even Clapton or all the gods never went. He reinvented a tapestry and a geography and a topography. But let's talk about Eddie, the music nut. We all got into these guitar adventures because we love that music. And you have to admit, with all the pyrotechnics and all the uncharted territory that Eddie really pioneered and elaborated upon, and we all glean that from everybody. Everybody says, what are you inspired by, Ted? I go, short skirts and train wrecks and everything in between. So what I think the most dynamic impact is that everybody on here, Pat, it's good to see you and Bruce and everybody else. God bless you all. Happy Clusterfuck 2020.
Yeah.
We all got into it because we were youthful adventurers for what Chuck Berry and Little Richard and all these gods invented after Les Paul electrified the guitar. So the real impact from Eddie Van Halen to me is that I'm like you guys. I'm a music lover. I love musical statements and musical defiance and turns that you didn't expect. Not just his playing and all the virtuosity, but the songs that he did it upon. This guy is going to go down with Mozart and Beethoven and Yusef Lateef and John Coltrane and Chuck Berry and B.B. King. He's going to go down with all these gods that really drew us into a sonic outrage that we hadn't witnessed before. And I'm like all of you guys, I wasn't so much scared as pissed off. I'm going, why the fuck didn't I figure that shit out? So I got to know Eddie early on. They did their first national tour opening for me. And there's that legendary story where he's out there doing a sound check. And I'm hearing all this outrageous noise. And I was anticipating this. And I went out and I looked at it, and he had a bomb. And I said, well, why didn't I have a bomb on my amplifier? If anybody should have a bomb on his amp, it should be me. And so I asked him what he's doing, and he basically, started talking electronic stuff that I had no idea what he was fucking talking about. But he played my Birdland after it ate his face because of the feedback. But when he got away from the speakers so that he could actually play on the fretboard, because a Birdland will – It has a life of its own. It won't let you play if it wants to feed back in a different key than you anticipate. And he sounded like Eddie Van Halen on a Gibson Birdland through Fender Twins. And then I picked up that bastardized Strata monster, and I started playing my riffs through his rig, and it sounded like my stuff. So I think what we all should celebrate, and I know I talk to people all the time about the music that we love, and after Eddie passed and the heartbreak and the sadness, but also more important than all that negativity and forlorn, pain, is the happiness and joy that motherfucker will deliver to us for eternity. And anytime we want to hear what Lewis and Clark would not have sent Sacagawea on in the guitar neck, we can just go ahead and listen to Eddie Van Halen. So I'd like to just join all of you in just genuflecting at the altar of not just his guitar virtuosity, but his human spirit unleashed, uninhibited plunge into that uncharted territory that gave us new lexicon, new language.
It was, you remember when Hendrix first came out, and I believe even in like Monterey, which was his first US performance after coming back, the smile on his face and the pure joy of just showing people, look at this cool thing I can do.
He's having fun.
Yeah, and Eddie was the same way. It was just And it came right out of, I remember the first time we were driving in a rental car in Texas on our way to San Antonio from Austin.
San Antonio, suck my
Yeah, exactly. and on the FM radio in 78, and that Eruption came on, and it jumped out of the speakers and right up into my face. And, you know, that was just like the coolest thing. Hendrix did that. Chuck Berry did that.
Stevie Ray Vaughan did that.
Stevie Ray Vaughan exactly did that. And he was another guy that just loved to play, you know.
I think he touched us because that positive spirit that you're emphasizing there, Pat, even right to the day he died. I mean, I hadn't seen him for years, and I don't know what kind of trauma and physical suffering he went through. But in his last interview, in his last tour, that guy was all shit kicker, piss and vinegar smiles. He channeled our love of music with not just the guitar maneuvers, but within the context of his songwriting. He was as brilliant of a songstress as he was a guitar technician. And when I got to jam with him, you know, I don't like drunk and stoned people so much. But even when he was drunk and stoned, he played like a motherfucker, and we had a really, really good time.
What you know, every picture, Ron, every picture you ever see Eddie, pretty much every picture, he's laughing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any.
He's laughing at us, by the way. Try this, motherfucker. Try to do this.
Ron,
are we all in agree? Are we all in agreement of of Eddie's greatest body of work? Is it the Eruption project? Is it, or do we have some other ideas?
I tell you the truth. When he started playing the keyboards, and he was still just doing all the guitar in the studio, I really liked where he was going with that.
Absolutely. I wanted to be pissed off because I don't like keyboards, but you couldn't not like what he did. He actually did. You know how we chunk on an open string? He somehow delivered that on keyboards. So God bless him.
Exactly. I love just the voicing of his chords and even, you know, the syncopation of the rhythms and stuff. It was very musical, but still totally rock and roll. And 9 times out of 10, when he came in with a solo, it was a rock and roll solo. It was like Chuck Berry, or, you know, that was
even on Beat It.
Yeah, that was
absolutely,
you know, the way he started a solo, and then he went off into Eddie Van Halen land, you know.
He was a motherfucker, boy.
Yeah.
You know, Eddie was a big fan of my group Cactus and Jim McCarty, who Ted knows very well.
My hero.
And Eruption came from a song that we did called Let Me Swim. You know, when I got to know Eddie, he gave me cassettes of them before they made it, playing Cactus songs, playing Beck Bogan and Appice songs. I have them somewhere. And
like Parchment Farm, yeah.
Yeah, like, so Eruption came, we did the same thing. We hit a chord, and McCarty did this big guitar thing. Then it went bram, bram, brow. It went to another thing, you know? And he said, we got that from you. I said, get out of here.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't even notice it. You know, just like Hot for Teacher was Parchment Farm, you know?
Well, they're doing all the covers. That's where you really got me. I was so pleased to hear him do a hit song with the Kinks, You Really Got Me, because everybody on this call, I'm sure, we all played You Really Got Me in thousands of clubs 1,000 times.
Well, I don't know if Steve ever played that. Steve, did you ever play that?
Oh, yeah. That's all right.
Okay.
It's an anthem.
We played Amboy Dukes and the Kinks.
Hey.
Now,
right.
There we go. Now you're talking.
When I inspirational moment, everybody talks about Eruption, but I remember a moment in my life somewhat earlier when I was about 12 or 13 on an AM radio in my mom's 63 Ford Falcon, and this band called the Amboy Dukes, and this sustained feedback note came out in the middle of the song, and I was like, what the F was that? And so, you know.
There it is.
Yeah, and
There it is.
God bless you, Steve.
There it is.
you know, I was totally excited.
Some early rock and roll.
Totally. All right.
Ted Nugent.
Yeah, I came up with that. I was only 18 years old. I don't know how the fuck I figured that out, except listening and putting the needle on B.B. King stuff, and putting the needle on Bo Diddley, and putting the needle on Chuck Berry, putting the needle when the cream. Well, that was before the cream, actually. I would put the needle on these Jimmy McCarty's Mitch Ryder stuff, and I would find these notes that I had no idea worked in a chord pattern, and I came up with that. It was pretty damn cool. I'm a motherfucker too.
Yeah, great phrasing. Great phrasing. You're way ahead of your time.
Yeah, we bonded that on that day. That was like 10 years before we ever met, you know.
Well, here, I got to tell you, Steve, here's a Birdland. That was moving the phone, wasn't it?
Hey, Ted, you're just like Eddie in a way, because when you play, you make the coolest, funny faces.
Can't help it.
Right?
I consider good music like a butt fucking.
Me too.
And I think if you really take it in, your face will represent the atrocities.
Somebody said to me the other day on Facebook, he said, I noticed when you're playing, your eye blinks on 2 and 4. I said, I know. I said, yeah, I know, but you know, I can't help it. It's just the way it is. You know, I come down on the snare, and it's like an emotional thing that just you can see it in your face. You know.
Yeah.
It's
Like
like
Carmine, number one, thanks for having me on here, guys. I got to tell you, everybody on here, I have such respect and so much reverence, all of you, and I think we can ultimately conclude, even though we're going to keep going, that the music of Eddie Van Halen and his teammates, the band were just motherfuckers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Alex and Michael and David Lee Roth and Sammy. But all of you guys, a big salute. Since you're not dead yet, I want to do it while you're still alive. A huge shit kicker, music loving salute to all you guys, because it's not just the concerts, it's just not the songs, it's just not the radio, it's just not listening to it in your truck. The enrichment that Eddie Van Halen's music, and all you guys, Steve and Bruce and everybody, what you've enriched. I love music, and you have enriched my life because of the quality and the emotion and the musical authority and the piss and vinegar and the fire that you guys deliver. So before you die, I would like to say that to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dad.
Well,
I think we've all been
same
connected
to
or
you.
met each other.
Yeah, same to you, Ted.
And,
Same
you
to you,
know,
bro.
Ted and I go back from a Crazy Nights tour that Nugent was out with Kiss. I remember we were talking to Rockman's gigs and stuff, and it was so crazy. And then, of course, you know, Ted knows, the good old Grand Funk guys who I've been gigging with for 20 years, and we had some chats about that. And you're right. I mean, Steve, I don't think I've ever met you in person. Ron, I know you, and Paul Stanley loves you, as you know. And Pat, we did a camp together, one of the fantasy camps. You know, that was cool. And obviously the two drummers who officially host this show, they're legendary and controversial in their own way. But Ted, you're right. I always show utmost respect for our fellow music community people, because we all know what it is to actually, first of all, the business part of what we do is nuts. We know that, okay?
Yeah.
But that's why we all look like kids when we're playing and making the orgasmic faces, you know, because that's where the fun is.
I'm actually having an orgasm myself.
I know I am.
That butt
let's
fucking
face
thing
it,
again.
Eddie, the few times I got to meet him, he was, I remember one funny story about Eddie is meeting him twice backstage. I was with Eric Carr, and we went to see, this is with Sammy Hagar. And by the way, when it comes to the David Lee Roth version and the other one, I love them both. Okay.
I love them.
You know, there are people that have their favorites, but I just see it as like one tremendous rock band that was just a turbo. You know, the songs and the playing and musicianship was incredible. But one gig, Eddie was definitely wild. And I remember he was he was real flirty backstage, very chatty backstage. And then the next night, Valerie was there. Okay. And it was a little different Eddie backstage. You know, he still played amazing.
I did hope so.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was kind of funny to see that. And then the spread that those guys would have after a gig, lobster steak and everything. You know, with Kiss, it was like, usually we just left the arena and there was like turkey club sandwiches back at the hotel for us, you know. It was like they didn't care about it that way.
I just had them bring in a goat and a dagger.
Yeah, exactly. I just couldn't believe the decadence. They were so cool.
He's not kidding. I got to provide it.
Exactly. Well, we know that Ted, he likes to cook at the, what is it?
Oh, no, we have
Kulick,
one night, Teddy, when you played here in Orlando, where I live, at the House of Blues, and you had chef come back and do some wild pig and a cream sauce, and it was so good.
Hey, Ted, I don't know if you remember this, nothing to do with Eddie. My girlfriend, Leslie Gold, she was a radio talk show host in New York. She had you,
Long Island,
in Manhattan. She was like a female Howard Stern. She had you on the show, and just for fun, she had a flaming stripper come on the show, and you guys barbecued some meat on the flaming stripper and ate it.
Those things happen, yes.
Yeah.
That's what we call it.
That's what Ted calls lunch.
Yeah, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, I don't have any fun at all.
You guys, what would you think? I mean, as far as Eddie, I mean, you know, the Fairweather fan. I mean, the real fans know this, but the Fairweather fan of Eddie Van Halen I don't think they really realize just how musical he was. Drums, keyboards, songwriting, the whole package. He was so humble. Did you ever have an experience or even see him talk about himself in that vein?
You know, I always thought that, you know, I have a nice diverse life. I think we can all agree that some of the greatest gifted artists in the history of the world are no longer with us because the music is hard to escape. Sometimes it's impossible to escape. And I told a lot of my heroes they should stop doing what they're doing because they need an escape. I have the spirit of the wild. I hunt and I fish and I farm and I dig holes and I train dogs and I breed teenagers. Anyhow, I not really, not anymore. And so what I found is that you know, I love Eddie. I think we all love Eddie. We thank God that Eddie Van Halen came into our lives. But I don't think the guy could get away from the music. He lived in that studio.
Totally.
He needed something to cleanse his brain. Obviously, well, he knows what he needed. But I found with the intensity that I unleash my music, I better shut the fuck up and get some good sleep and get away from the music. That's why my music stays fresh. And I bet you all have a way to do that yourselves because your music is always fresh. But Eddie lived in the fucking studio.
Did you ever go to his?
Stopped.
Have you ever been to his studio?
I never got there.
I used to hang out with Eddie and Alex there. And first of all, you know, every time you see Eddie with a picture, he had a cigarette in his hand or on the guitar. You go in that studio and it just reeked of smoke. But they had, like Steve, you had the Scully machine. They had a couple of Scully machines that this big Neve board or some sort of big board. All kinds of keyboards, guitar stacks. I mean, it was just a mess. It looked like a really badly kept music store, you know.
Well, he was a genius. He was a genius.
Yeah, and Alex had his drums.
Genius has chaos.
Yes, total chaos.
Well,
Alex had his drums. Alex had his drums all set up, you know, behind some glass, and they just would go in there and just hang out and just screw around until they come up with something. It was amazing.
You talk chaos a little bit. I mean, it's no secret that there was some drama going on with the band. I mean, so many times. I mean, between obviously the Sammy David thing, but there was a lot of drama going on with the band. You hear that a lot. How much do you think that affected Eddie, his output? Do you think he could have even done even more if that freaking drama wasn't around?
I think he was the drama. I think he put out everything a human possibly could. That was my point. I think he worked, and I'm in no position to judge, but I think he worked himself to death.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
with
I agree.
you,
I agree.
I really do, because that's all he did. All he did. I wish he had collaborated with more musicians, so other people over time. He didn't really.
Do you remember the thing with Brian May?
He had a few showcase things here and there, but he never got outside.
He played
being Eddie Van Halen.
He played on Tim.
Sorry,
Pat, he played on Tim Bogart's solo album.
Oh, no kidding! Wow.
Yeah. They never went anywhere.
I think we can all agree. I'm going to leave you with this because I have a Zoom thing I'm doing here in a minute. But thank you so much for including me. And I'm humbled and honored to share a time to a great man like Eddie Van Halen. But I think I can leave you with the words of wisdom from the old guitar player from Detroit. To quote the greatest philosopher of all times, Dirty Harry, when he said, a good man has to know his limitations. So, Eddie, rest in peace. We worship the soundtrack that you have provided that brings us such happiness and such outrage. And to all of you guys, too, I repeat that. I'm humbled to share this little get-together. It's like a campfire for Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. But I have a song called Fred Bear about a hero of mine. And at the end, I say, in the wind, he's still alive, and I think that applies to Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
Hey,
well said.
Amen. Hey, Ted, but before you go, you said that Eddie should have lived by the mantra that every man has his limitations. What are the limitations of Ted Nugent?
I don't have any. That's why I know these things. No, my limitations are I got smart early on because with the Amboy Dukes, we did 300, sometimes 350 concerts a year. If a place had electricity, I'd plug the fuck in and play. And I did it so much, but I was raised as a hunter. And during the fall and winter, when I'm on tour, I'd see people hunting. So I'd try to grab a Wednesday where I could go hunt. And you can't really experience nature in a quickie. So my brightest moment was back in the 70s when I was selling gazillions of records. I said no to chunks of time in October to go hunting with my dad, to shut the fuck up, because you've all seen me on stage. How I haven't killed myself, I'll never know, because I have more forehead popping veins than James Brown every song. So I had to learn to shut the fuck up and relax and get into the outdoors where, like tonight, I was in a tree for 3 hours and I had ducks and geese flying all around. 2 deer gave me the finger, but I'll catch up with them. So that's my limitation. I rock my balls into a frenzy, but then when I'm not rocking my balls into a frenzy, I'm really good at shutting the fuck up and living an earthly life. I farm, I ranch, I hunt, I fish. I donate over a ton of venison to soup kitchens and homeless shelters every year. I'm like Mother Teresa with a Glock. And so if I'm going to make the music, in fact, let me leave you with this. I think all my guitar buddies will love this. I can get my bow and arrow fingers going. But here's a new lick that Pat and Steve and Bruce, this is when I come in from a swamp. I just sat down the other day and I went. And I would beautiful licks like that if I hadn't been quiet for a long time. So my limitations are to be quiet when I'm not loud.
That's mindfulness, brother. When you're out there in the woods, you're just paying attention to nature and the stuff that's right in front of you.
Yep. God bless you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of this crazy year. God bless you and your family. Be healthy and strong.
Hey, Ted, I'll talk to you.
and
talk
play
to
like
you.
animals. I will. I'll call you, Carmine. God bless. In fact, I'd like to
bro.
get all your numbers. I'd like to harass all you guys and talk about shit sometime.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. God bless y'all, man.
All right,
Take care,
Ted.
Ted.
Thanks for joining
God
us,
bless
Ted.
Eddie Van Halen. I have no idea how to get the fuck out of here. What do I?
I hear you.
Wow. So can you ever imagine you
I
hear?
love Ted. I love Ted.
But did you ever think that you would see the day that you'd hear Ted Nugent say, "I gotta shut up"? You know what I mean? I couldn't. That's
I know.
amazing.
I've lived that long.
Thank God.
Hey.
Thank God.
We're lucky he came on late.
Yeah.
I know. Well, you know what? And I was touching on this a little bit. You know, that the drama, and first of all, it's amazing that Valerie stuck around with all the drama going around. I mean, he was a very loyal guy though with his marriage and everything. Something rare, you know. And there was true love there.
He was loyal with extremely loyal about his band and his brother, because we did one of the few things of him stepping outside the band when we played that Music Man series of shows and that showcase at the NAMM, but where he played with John Ferraro on drums.
Mm-hmm.
But he was very, just even in conversation, he would like stop the conversation if somebody's talking about drums and say, "No, you don't understand. My brother is the biggest badass on drums in the planet." You know, I mean, he loved his brother and loved his brother's playing, and they were obviously connected together. And one of the things
Alex never played with anybody else.
Yeah, that's another weird thing too, isn't it?
Yep.
And even his son, the support that he gives his son, that he gave his son.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys don't do that. Maybe give him a shot here and there, but the amount of support that he gave his son is just. I mean, he earned it too, of course, but still, a lot of guys they want that separation.
Eddie told me that he was joined at the hip with his brother. Because in the like around 2000, they weren't doing much, and I was putting a band together with Jimmy Bain from Dio.
Oh, Jimmy, I love Jimmy.
So I said, we need a guitar player, man. Who are we going to call? So we said, let's start at the top. So I called Eddie.
That's ballsy.
He called me. Yeah, he called me back the next day. But I don't have too many friends named Eddie. And he goes, "Hey, Vinny, yeah, it's Eddie." And I went, "Eddie." Eddie, then I went, "Oh, Eddie, shit." So I said, what was going on? He said, "Well, I appreciate the offer, but Alex and I are joined at the hip, and that's why they."
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's great. Good.
I've known so many people that, in some ways, they worked with those guys, either on the marketing or the artistic or the road crew, and they were good friends of mine. And I have to admit, most of the time when I would want to know some things about the inner workings of that band, because they were just so influential and famous to me. And I have to admit, none of it could I wrap my head around. Drama is the big word. Not that we all know bands is drama, okay?
Yep.
But you have those two brothers attached at the hip. You have controversial frontmen, David Lee Roth. I don't even know what really happened when he went, but they didn't stop. Yeah. And then they move into Sammy Hagar, who's so talented. And then there's another version of the band. Then all of a sudden, the sweetest guy in the world, as far as I was concerned, Michael Anthony, is shown the door. It just everything and anything I heard, I could never put the pieces of the fabric together to make any picture to me at all. And I preferred to just love the music, know what they were into. And one last thing I wanted to bring up about, I only had that quick time backstage with Eddie, and I didn't even really speak to him. So I'm at a NAMM show, but it was at an event when he was showing the Eddie Van Halen gear. We had that fabulous photo together, and I was so happy to meet him and actually take a picture this time. But I've run into Michael Anthony. I've done some things with, and I'm sure you guys have as well. Some of you, great guy. But one time I ran into Alex, and I believe it was Wolfgang then, at the Admirals Club in Dallas. Okay, and it was so cool. Whoever was with them knew me and introduced me to Alex, and I was so bummed that Eddie wasn't there, of course. But I had to connect it to Grand Funk for a second, because when I told them, "Oh, I'm on the road with Grand Funk," I've been with them at that point. It was probably 10 years, okay? And they were like, "Oh my God, I love Grand Funk." we all have influences. Carmine, everyone's been influenced by one of your bands or you. We know that, okay? Vinny, everyone loves every band you played in, you know what I mean? and so on and so forth. I have to stroke the host here, of course. But the point I'm making is they had their heroes too, and their eyes lit up when they knew. And Don, you know, like Don Brewer is one of those icons on drums. You guys know that, okay?
Yeah.
And they were out, and to see Alex, someone who's the ultimate, you know, rock drummer from that era, especially my era of Kiss and everything. He's just like lit up about it, and we know that Mel was so influential as a bassist for so many, you know, like a Tim Bogart was, you know. So it's just so connected, and I was just so happy to run into them, say hi. And sadly, though, anytime I had to hear what's going on, oh my God, anything I heard, I just wanted to just like, I felt so bad because you just wanted to always work out. But I think we all know that that's not the way it is, you know, and unfortunately there's a lot of drama there.
Sammy once told me that
someone's breaking up there. What was that?
Oh, am I here?
Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Sammy was telling me once that he would work on songs with Ed in the studio, just him and Sammy, and they were having a ball, and they were coming up with stuff and putting it down on tape, and Ed was just like completely gung-ho about it. Very next day, Alex said, I don't like it. And Ed didn't like it anymore. You know, That's the way it went. If Alex didn't like it, Eddie didn't like it anymore. And Sammy said that was kind of frustrating, you know. But,
well, I got a little story about the other singer, David Lee Roth. It was time when Malcolm Mendoza was asked me if I would play in Dave's new band after the old band with Billy Sheehan and everything broke up. And by the way, Billy Sheehan's going to be on the show, Ron, next Thursday.
Next Thursday,
right.
great
Yeah. So anyway, as I said, I would check out a new band with Dave. So we had a couple of rehearsals. So we had one rehearsal. Then the next day, Dave shows up in this outfit that it looked like a Holiday Inn bedspread and curtain outfit, you know, made into like pajamas, right? So he come in and he said, I said, hey, Dave. I said, man, did you get that at Holiday Inn and make that into an outfit? He said, no, man, this is custom made. And next thing I know, I was fired.
You know, that's silly.
Well, not surprised.
Not at all. Is there?
It probably worked out for the better there.
Oh yeah. He never got a band. He never got a band together anyway. So.
And that's the thing.
Ooh, let's lighten up here, guys.
If there was
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, he had the good sense to hire good people, though. Or Jason Becker. When I met him, you know, when he was an able-bodied young man, he introduced himself to me, very well-spoken and great guitar player, and he just was so proud that he just, you know, gotten the gig. Playing with David Lee Roth, and of course, you know, then his, you know, the ALS flared up, and you know, he's still alive and still a genius, though, and I think it's really cool of David Lee Roth to, you know, to want to be around talented people like that.
Yeah. Even that residency thing he put together in here, Vegas, you know, obviously then the pandemic hit, you know, but he did do enough dates. I remember, I think he had 2 or 3 guitar players, but they had the Eddie Van Halen vocabulary down very well, especially one of the guys. I mean, and why not? I mean, Dave is no fool that he's gonna. It's you know, he might be the front man and has that name, but the playing better be, you know, legitimate to what he's so famous for. Of course, you know. I'm gonna take off, guys. I just want to tell you, first of all, it's an honor to see you guys like this. The brothers, I love you guys, you know that. But
love you, Bruce.
Certainly, Pat, great seeing you again, and Ron, and then Steve. We haven't met in person, but I'm a big fan. One of my favorite Deep Purple records is that one with Ezrin produced. Okay, was it like Oh Yeah or something? I forget the title now. Jeez.
What
did he
now?
go away?
Or
What was it called?
what now? Now what?
Now? Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
now what? Sorry.
Now what? Whatever. It
Now
was
what?
a
Yep.
it was a white cover, and I just was addicted to that record. You've been doing a great job with that, of course. So
Hey,
wow,
Chris,
you had Ted
Chris, we
Nugent
love
on,
your,
that's
we
crazy.
love your curtains, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, the curtains are
I
happening,
like
dude.
it. I got it.
Yeah.
Once a cop friend of mine
Bruce.
who knows social media said, like, I got some lights for you, so,
Yeah.
so that they can dance and even do more crazy things. The lights and really, the curtains. Just one last thing came from. This was our TV room for Lisa and I to watch and enjoy. And then I realized, well, that's a good backdrop, nice and simple, And then it became, I may as well do all my interviews from here, where I can, just enjoy chatting to people, the way the world is right now. So everybody, be safe, love you.
Yeah.
Please
And
do.
as
Thanks,
Ken
Bruce.
said, the music
Take
is
care,
all that
Bruce.
counts.
Be in
Hey,
touch.
Have
Okay,
a full
bro.
life,
You too,
Okay.
man.
All right.
Bruce,
Bye,
thank
Bruce.
you.
See you again. Okay. Take
Pat
care.
Travers, what can we say? Thank you so much for being with us. Bumblefoot again. Steve,
Yeah.
welcome to the show. You
Hey,
guys.
thanks, Steve. Steve, I'm
Nice
glad I
to
dialed
see
your
you,
number that day
Steve.
from the store.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Hey,
That's
a
a good one.
salute, a final salute to Eddie Van Halen, to
Yeah.
Tony Lewis to the outfield, to Spencer Davis. I mean, it's a very tough week this week as well. And who knows what's going to happen in the next few months. So just God bless everybody. God bless rock and roll. You guys, especially on this call. As you know who I am in this whole picture. I'm a fan. Thank you so much on behalf of all the
Okay.
fans, you guys.
Okay, man.
Good night, guys.
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah.
Next week, David Lee
Bye,
Roth next
everybody.
week.
Yeah, David Lee Roth. Billy Sheehan next week.
Yeah.
Let's jam now.
Bye,
Let's jam
everybody.
out.
Bye, everybody.
Jam our way out.
Now.
I've got enough frets for that.
Oh, that hype. It's so simple, no. On the road. Come on. Right behind you. What do you got?
All in different times.
If I get any louder, that'll be the end of it. See you guys later. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Bumblefoot. I'll see you soon, man. Okay,
Oh, take care. I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.